with authority. Aloha.
Welcome to the most musclesome podcast in Bay Area sports. Welcome to ABC7 Sports
with authority.
I'm Casey Pratt. That's Larry Beal. You're inside the ABC7 Sports Department. We have a big show today.
We have so much
Huge
to talk
show.
about. What is the next big concern for the Warriors? And it's not KD tweeting Chris Broussard.
I hope not.
We thought it was his calf. His fingers are working just fine. Who is the real team of destiny, Casey Pratt? Senior sports producer made a proclamation, an announcement that did not go as expected. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We'll tell you what that means and why you may someday go out to the veggie garden at Oracle Park to greet your old Uncle Ned. And I don't mean Ned Stark, but we'll talk about the ending of the Game of Thrones, which it was underwhelming. I'll just say that.
We may disagree. We'll see.
Endings are hard, no matter how they come about.
It's not easy to stick the
in real life.
Yeah.
Endings are hard. Goodbyes are hard, and the end of a series, whether it's Game of Thrones or Sopranos or whatever, Mission Impossible, whatever it is, it's hard. It's hard. Life is hard. Get used to it. Speaking of which, well, life is easy actually right now for the Warriors. This is the calm before the storm.
Absolutely.
A nice 9-day layoff. They sweep the Blazers. I mean, I still think back to the panic that was ensuing when KD got hurt against the Rockets in Game 5. Now here they are, just resting up, getting ready. We'll talk about what their next area of concern is. But I know you are passionate about what is going on with the Warriors in terms of what everybody's talking about.
Yeah. I think right now we are being treated to something that we may never experience again for the rest of our lives. And I'm talking about an unprecedented run from an NBA team that is reaching levels that were previously seen many, many years ago when there were far less teams, right?
You're talking about the Celtics
Yes.
of the 60s. We're over 50 years ago.
Exactly.
And also, the deal was different then. I think you had only 8 teams.
Yeah.
Free agency didn't exist, so what Boston was able to do was stack the roster with all the best guys, and then you just keep bringing the best guys back every year. It wasn't like Bill Russell was going to jump to the 76ers. That was not an option at that point.
Yeah, so for less teams, and it was much easier to do it. Now, we are looking at something that is a once-in-a-generation type of situation. If you grew up and you watched and endured the suffering of the Golden State Warriors, who, man, for a long time, they did absolutely nothing. We are right now being treated to an era of basketball, beautiful basketball, that we may never see again. It's spectacular, and what are we talking about right now? Not that at all. What are we talking about right now? We're talking about...
Where's KD going?
What's he doing? Chris Broussard said this is KD's nightmare. The
Warriors
going to
winning the
finals.
championship. Well, no, he said the Warriors winning the championship without KD, who's trying to come back from a calf
injury. This is
a
nightmare. This isn't a nightmare. KD said it himself.
No, KD with a blown out Achilles tendon. That would be a nightmare.
That would be a nightmare.
That would be the nightmare.
Winning while he's resting up and getting healed up for the finals, that's not a nightmare. We had Byron Scott on ESPN say KD's 100% leaving. We had Bill Simmons on his amazing podcast saying that Draymond Green's effort and Stephen Curry's success in the series without KD is essentially a slap in the face to him. Are you serious? Can we just enjoy what's happening right now?
Well, the notion that as Draymond Green is pushing the ball up the court at a frantic pace, that he's thinking in the back of his mind, I'm going to do this to get back at KD.
It's preposterous.
It's laughable. But people have to fill shows and come up with content and stuff. So I understand where most of that is coming from and why it's generated. But it's kind of laughable when you think about the big picture. Like when these guys are out on the court, they are just trying to win. They're just trying to summon the energy. And everybody ran the highlight, we did too, of Steph running around and around on one set where poor Damian Lillard is trying to track him from the left side of the court to the right side of the court, and he's running him through screens. It's like he's going through a maze and picks, and Steph ends up getting the ball on the left wing at pump fake. Lillard is trying to defend, and naturally Steph hits a three. But the mileage actually is that Steph averages 2.6 miles per game running in the regular season, just with all the motion, and I bet you it's over 3 miles per game, given the absence of Durant, because the offense, has more motion involved now, and it's just the playoffs and there's more going on. But that's a crazy. You have to be in crazy shape to do it, and arguably in even better shape to defend, and if you're Damian Lillard, to try to score on your end when you're clearly exhausted.
Yeah, so having Durant is obviously great for the Warriors. They can lean on him. They don't have to run 3 to 4 miles a game. And it's something that they can help when they're trying to sustain an entire 82-game season. Right now we're seeing them sprinting toward the finish line because they can. And they know they had that rest around the corner. And so obviously they want KD back. Every move they make isn't something that is going to be psychoanalyzed by every analyst about whether or not this means this or that with KD or his decisions. I mean, could we just enjoy the moment? Could we just live in the present? Can we just watch this dynasty and not have to think about next year or when it's going to end?
Well, I would love to, but you have all these media outlets that, again, they've got to fill their 2 hours every morning, or the radio shows. But this really is the golden age of Golden State Warriors basketball. It may never get better than a team going to the finals for 5 consecutive years. Consider this statistic here, okay? Because, older Warriors fans will remember the suffering from 1997-98, that season, to 01-02. The Warriors went 5 consecutive years without winning more than 21 games in any of those seasons. Let me take us for a stroll down memory lane.
Context is important, people.
Do you remember the Bimbo Coles Warriors, the Todd Fuller Warriors, the Mookie Blaylock Warriors, the Eric Dampier Warriors? That's what we saw frequently. Chris Mills, who was involved in an incident with a gun after a game at the arena. Joe Smith, when they had the number 1 pick, and it was Joe Smith who was the number 1 pick available. And our own beloved,
the great
Donald Foyle, AF was on those teams. So, I mean, you want to talk about...
We had coaches being choked.
Spree was on the team as well. I think he was a rookie in that last year that I was talking about. But yeah, it was a dumpster fire. Yeah. And now we're talking about luxury.
Except we're not talking about luxury.
I know, we're talking about disaster. That's the whole problem. It may end. It may all end. But the thing with everybody chatting about this is that there's been so much leaked about the Knicks, and the Knicks have done some of it, whether it's KD's people, Rich Kleiman, his agent, who denied it at an event this week.
Said he's undecided completely.
Put on by the Wall Street Journal. There's so much kind of anecdotal chirping going on that usually where there's some smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
And so that's what everybody's reacting to. And it's part of the reason why Draymond and KD had that dust-up back in November at the Staples Center, because the Warriors were clearly cognizant of what was on his mind. So we'll see. Who knows what happens once the champagne is coming down and you're celebrating with your guys and you realize what an amazing journey it has been again if they do it for 3 consecutive years. So we'll see. Nobody will be surprised if he were to leave, whether it's... Clippers might be the more interesting destination, certainly a more dangerous one from a Warriors standpoint. Who knows what... the Knicks are such a bad organization. Why you would seek that out, I don't know. But we got to enjoy what the finals will bring, because if he leaves, who knows how they fill in, because they can't just replace his $30-35 million with another player of equal value because of cap concerns. It's not allowed. So they'd have to fill in on the fringes, but the bench has done a great job that we did not expect to see.
Not at all. They turned it on. Yeah. Everyone stepped up.
And even Steve Kerr admitted, well, I probably probably kind of screwed this up against Houston because I should have been playing some of these guys. I mean, Jordan Bell has been dusted off. He makes some mistakes. He misses a dunk, but he also provides some tremendous athleticism. Quinn Cook has hit some threes. Jonas Jerebko, Alfonso McKinney, they've all made their contributions.
Nice.
I mean, the other night he had only 2 rebounds. They were both offensive rebounds, and they were both key
Huge.
in overtime. So there's that. But while we plead for everybody to enjoy the moment,
just be satisfied with what you're seeing right now,
because you may not see it.
You may never see it again.
Here's the concern, because Steve Kerr, you want to talk about a roller coaster ride of a season in terms of all that has gone on in front of the camera and behind the scenes. Just imagine trying to put out every fire that's come up this season in terms of the strife, the internal struggle. Well, now he has the luxury. I mean, you want to talk about a grand problem to have. He's got to try to figure out, assuming they're all healthy, how to get Kevin Durant and Boogie Cousins and Andre Iguodala, was around, incorporated back into his minutes. You only have so many minutes in a game, 48 minutes. So how are you going to integrate KD, who likes to play the ISO style?
Throw him right in, you start him, you let him do it.
Of course. But I think it's imperative.
Boogie's the bigger challenge, right?
Well, yeah, because he cannot play at the pace. Assuming you just tell Draymond, whatever you've been doing, keep doing this. You get the rebound, go. It reminds me really of the Showtime Lakers. Magic Johnson would get the ball and he would just be flying up the court. It puts so much stress on the defense. And so we'll see if they do that, or a lot of times, especially when Steph's hand was injured initially, KD was bringing the ball up and he was walking it up. So how do you balance that out? And if Boogie is back, is he at the 3-point line? Are you putting him down low in the post? Are you trying to work? I mean, they have 3 different offenses they can run. It's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
Now the question is, can you blend it all together without guys getting frustrated? And we'll see how that works out. But that's a nice problem to have for Steve Kerr, as opposed to, I got really 6 guys that I'm confident in. I got a half guy that I might play, and the rest of you guys. So this is
all
much
this
better.
Sounds like a nightmare to me and Kevin Durant. A nightmare. I'm just kidding. No, this is a great problem to have, and this is why you have the coaching staff that you do there. These guys are the best at figuring out these situations, adapting, and making them work. And Steve Kerr, really, an amazing coach, but maybe more so an amazing manager of people.
Well,
this is what it is right now.
Psychology is a huge part of coaching, I think. Look, in the NBA, everybody knows what plays to draw up, and everybody steals each other's plays anyway on, ATOs after timeouts, the inbound plays. Steve has some creative ones, other coaches do as well, but it's really how you manage the egos and the minutes, and what do guys do? One guy will go into the tank if he doesn't play or if he doesn't get touches, and so managing all of that when everybody's a multimillionaire and their personal net worth is more than some small countries, and having to manage all of that behind the scenes with, there's all kinds of stuff going on.
Well, speaking of that too, what you don't see and you often only think of is like the superstars and how they handle their roles. Think about what they had to do behind the scenes to keep the guys like Alfonso McKinney and Jerebko and even Damian Jones coming back. The way that they've had to handle those guys in a way that they could then insert them into this playoff series and have them be in a position to be successful. We're not really seeing or talking a lot about that, but that's mastery.
Well, how about Jordan Bell?
Jordan Bell, absolutely.
Jordan Bell, this is a guy and I've told this story before, when I first saw him in China on the preseason tour a couple of years ago, he was just astounding with his athleticism and just looked like a natural. And I said to Steve at the time, you're going to have a Jordan Bell problem because you're not going to have enough minutes to play him. Well, he had a Jordan Bell problem, but it was 0 minutes because that he wanted to play him. And then you have the whole situation where he's charging things to Mike Brown's hotel bill, the candle, and just nonsense, stupid stuff off the court. And he basically was on ice for 2 months, and then to just throw him out into a playoff series, and then he performs.
Looks great.
Which is
sans the weird dunk, but then now he's doing them all two-handed. Yeah, he learned his lesson.
I always thought when I went up for a dunk, it should always be with two hands.
I always dunk with two hands.
Because I have a hard time palming the ball.
Well, before we move on, too, how about Draymond when that happened? Did you see that clip mic'd up?
Yeah, it was great where he was encouraging him, saying everybody misses shots.
Yeah, he's like, I miss shots, Steph's missing shots, Clay misses shots. Like, don't worry, just get back after. I mean, that's the team
and
we have
Jerebko
right
misses almost every shot.
Oh,
no, he didn't say that. Whoa, shots fired. Anyway, one thing we have to touch on before we move on, the difference between the ability to play like this, and Draymond has talked about 16-game players versus 82-game players. And if Durant does leave, well, here I am. I'm talking about. I'm going against your whole philosophy of this podcast. You need 16 games. There's some guys who are just clutch in the playoffs and you can trust. And the Warriors obviously battle-tested year after year. And now this is year 5. They're in the finals. So they know what to expect, and they know how to perform, and they know how to get ready. Case in point, Draymond losing over 20 pounds just to get ready. Gave up the Flamin' Hot Cheetos, which had to be that was a big
that was plenty
sacrifice.
Of time for Cheetos after the championships won.
82-game players, there's some guys that look great in the regular season, but they really can't perform or don't perform up to expectations. So the tricky part going forward is we've seen all that Steph and Clay and Draymond can do in the 2015 flashback and how good they can be. But the amount of energy they are currently expending is not sustainable in an 82-game season. So in a Durant-less environment, you can't expect these guys to run themselves into the ground. So next year they may have, who knows who they bring in, but it may just be 52 wins or 54 because you don't want to burn out Andre Iguodala in a regular season game in January. It just doesn't matter that much.
It doesn't make any sense.
I think the one challenge for the league actually is the regular season almost does not matter to the best teams. They're saving themselves for April, May, June, and
16 games
for the 16 games for the 16 important games. Yeah. If you're Milwaukee and you haven't done this since like Don Nelson was coaching or Kareem was your center, it's important to win 60 plus games in the regular season. If you're Toronto and you lose every year, you get swept by LeBron every year. Now he's gone. You have a chance, but the regular season is important for the Warriors. It's your favorite phrase. It's load management, baby. It's all about that. So there's a big difference, and the Warriors clearly have the best assembly of 16-game players, perhaps, that we've seen since Jordan's Bulls.
Yeah, so I think you're right. It is absolutely not sustainable to play the way that we've seen them play without Kevin Durant for an entire 82-game season. Actually, we really saw what happened when they did burn themselves out during the regular season when they went for the NBA 73 record.
Yeah, they ended up losing in the finals.
They ended up losing the finals. Now, obviously, there were some circumstances that happened with the suspension of Draymond or Curry's knee not being right.
And Bogut got hurt as well.
Bogut got hurt too. But, a lot of that, too, could be because you pressed so hard to get that record, the 73 wins. So I think that what they absolutely need to do is go all out. But what you're seeing right now isn't necessarily a preview of what the Warriors would truly be without Kevin Durant.
I think there are glimpses of it, but they would have to, again, Steve Kerr would have to manage it in a way so that it was sustainable. It might result in fewer regular season wins, but look, what we're seeing right now is a Warriors team that can beat pretty much anybody on any given night, no matter who they beat the Rockets. Rockets finished the season so strong, and we'll see. They obviously would have other roster moves to make, but it feels to me like, given all that they've been through, the Warriors are a team of destiny right now. Don't you like the sound of team of destiny? Doesn't it
sounds really nice?
That sounds familiar. Where have I heard that phrase before recently, Casey? Can you remember?
Do you have the shame bell? Ding ding.
Shame. Are you gonna do the walk that
I should
Cersei
do the walk of atonement?
You're gonna walk naked through the newsroom like Cersei did?
So I had crowned on this very podcast the San Jose Sharks the team of destiny, and that's what Larry's talking about. I said that when Joe Pavelski took that puck to the face and a win in the net, and they won Game 1, and then they came back and they won that big Game 7 against the Vegas Golden Knights, I said I had no doubt in my mind the Sharks were going all the way this year. Finally.
How'd that work out?
That did not go very well. They got beat up.
They were physically...
I can't control the injuries. Everyone got hurt.
If you're a team of destiny, isn't that supposed to overcome all the injuries?
When we had that hand
The
puck
Timo
into the
Meyer.
net. Yeah, in overtime.
The hand of God, Timo Meyer.
It started looking like, all right, I am right here. Things like that, breaking the Sharks' way, that seemed to never break the Sharks' way, kept happening. And they got their captain back, and he was fresh, and they got past the Avalanche, even without Pavelski most of the time. They kept surviving the elimination games. They survived 4 of them, and then everybody got hurt. So, unfortunately, we have to eulogize the Sharks season. They are not the team of destiny. I am wrong. Rarely happens.
Well,
that I'm wrong.
We could ask your family members that
They will
disagree
tell you,
with that assessment.
Yeah, they will
but
probably disagree.
Here's the challenge for the Sharks now, because you had
Don't
Carlson.
say it's over.
Carlson was hurt. Pavelski got hurt. Hurdle got hurt. Everybody was banged up, so they ran out of gas in Game 6. But Joe Thornton, Jumbo Joe, I'm going to get up close here on the camera for YouTube.
Larry's holding up a Jumbo Joe Thornton chia pet that we have yet to grow. We will sprout this thing.
Are we going to do that?
That may be a little foreshadowing for later in the show.
It's certainly a similarity to another story we're going to have. But I don't know that we're going to see the Jumbo Joe chia or the real Jumbo Joe in teal anymore, because he's coming up on 40 years old.
Yeah.
He's been with the Sharks for 14 seasons. Before that, the Bruins. And you have to wonder how many times you can say, one more year. We're going to get over the top next year. And look at the list of free agents. Thornton's a free agent. Joe Pavelski is the captain. You have to assume that they're going to work out a deal with the captain. Carlson injured so much of the year.
We never got to see the real Erik Karlsson.
No, and that $7 or $8 million a year. I don't know that they want to see that. Gustav Nyquist, Jonas Donskoy, Timo Myers is a restricted free agent, but they don't have first-round draft picks for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And so
we're at a crossroads. We're at a crossroads for sure with the San Jose Sharks. And they just can't quite get over the hump, and every year they really have to make the hard decision. Do they want to go push all the chips back in again? Do they want to try to chase that elusive Stanley Cup? Or do they want to rebuild this thing? And I think that that's the crossroad we're at, and maybe a lot of that decision-making starts with Jumbo Joe Thornton, who is currently undecided on his future, but...
Well, it's too early. I mean, it's still fresh.
It's fresh, yeah.
And I'm sure he's banged up. The question is, when you get to 40 years old, how much do you want to put your body through? Especially if...
He's in incredible shape, though.
Yeah, clearly. But, are you playing at that point because you love the sport, or because you think, okay, next year we're finally going to get this done? And the question mark for the Sharks will be, well, we did this on an earlier pod looking at their payroll. They had a top 5 payroll, over $80 million. And if the payroll is significantly reduced, you have to think that your chances of getting to the finals will likely be reduced. If you say, okay, we're going to go youth movement, we'll try to blend these guys together, some of the old, some of the new. What are your realistic chances? And at that point, are you just playing to try to get the cup because the odds are slim that you're going to achieve that?
But that's the ultimate goal.
So
have to be.
I don't know. There's going to be a lot of soul searching that has to go on. But maybe next year the Sharks will
maybe
be
next year they're the team of destiny.
The team of destiny.
But probably not. Sorry.
Yeah.
Man. Speaking of eulogies.
Not yet.
We got close. And that was sad, man. It hit me really hard when I saw that the nature boy Ric Flair wasn't doing well again after a serious health scare 2 years ago.
He's back, though. He's fine.
He's back. He's good. It scared us, though. And I know that he follows me on Twitter, but I've never actually met him. I know that you've actually met him.
Whoa.
Humble brag.
Ric Flair follows you on Twitter?
Yeah.
I understand you following Ric Flair on Twitter.
He follows me.
Why would he? Why did we not start the podcast with
I
that?
don't know. When I noticed Ric Flair followed me on Twitter, I may have done a little happy dance.
Are you sure it's not a fake
No,
Ric
it's
Flair?
100% Ric Flair.
We did have a blue check
He tweeted
verified.
his bicep today when he got out of the hospital from that account. It's a real one. Blue check mark, everything. I've never met him. Larry's met him.
I'm stupefied by this.
I know,
I just cannot believe. What does he want to know? Everything there is to know about the Oakland A's? Because that's pretty much what you tweet 24/7
about the Oakland A's, and he loves really stupid screenshots of things. Because that's about all I provide.
You do provide that.
That's about it.
Wow.
I know. You like how I slipped that in there?
I'm speechless, which rarely happens. All right, so I'll give you my Ric Flair story. Well, there's a few of them because I've seen him at the ESPYs for a couple years now. He wasn't there this past year.
But
though.
what did I tell you when Flair was at the ESPYs and you were there?
You said, make sure you talk to Charlotte.
I may have said that too. I said, Larry, if you do not interview Ric Flair at the ESPYs, don't even come home.
You did say that
I
also.
did.
I didn't remember that part. I just
But
when
he
I
did.
saw Charlotte
You went and
Flair,
got him, and Charlotte
when
was
I saw
there.
Charlotte, she was there.
Love
We did
Charlotte
we
Flair.
did the interview.
Immensely talented.
Tremendous entrance into the ring every single week. Okay, my Ric Flair story. This is pre-Charlotte because this is back in the day when I was working as a sportscaster in Hawaii, and wrestling was a big deal back then. And so every once in a while you would get the superstar wrestler who would fly into town, and in that case it was Ric Flair.
Nice.
And so the promoter called me up and said, hey, you want to do something with Flair? And so you could do the standard interview, and then we did that, and we were at the Ilikai Hotel, which is a famous hotel in Honolulu, and it's where the original Hawaii Five-0 scenes were shot on the balcony there, the lanai. Anyway, so we're at the Ilikai, and I said, hey, I kind of got something in mind. I don't know if you could play along, but so he says, well, what are you thinking, kid? Because I'm in my my mid-20s, and Ric Flair is like wrestling god at that point, and he's just being nice to me. He's just trying to entertain me. And so I said, well, there's this newscaster I work with, and his name is Bob Jones. Can I just give you the microphone, and you just make up some story about how much you despise Bob Jones and how you've come to the islands and you want Bob Jones, and you're going to take him out and you're going to wait for him after the newscast, and you're going to bust him up in the parking lot, and this island is not big enough for Ric Flair and Bob Jones. And I go through this whole, like, can we do this? Can we do that? And he looks at me and he puts his arm around me and he goes, kid, usually this kind of request would be accompanied with $5,000 in cash. You understand what you're asking for, young man? And I was just like, sorry, Mr. Flair, I didn't mean to ask something like that. And he said, all right, kid, let's do it. So put the camera on him, and he just went off. It was fantastic on Bob Jones. He went crazy
Poor
on Bob Jones. And it was priceless. I'd have to fly back to the archives at the old KGMB Honolulu, now Hawaii News Now, to dig out that tape. But it was a riot, and he's so good on the mic. He's such a fantastic performer.
Absolute legend. I mean, honestly, one of the greatest to ever live, and in the ring and out. And man, I mean, we saw the documentary. We both sat here watching it in the office.
Riveting.
We were just glued to it when the Ric Flair HBO documentary came out.
We have to do one if we're going to do a Ric Flair segment. Woo! We got to get that in before we move on.
Absolutely.
Right.
Now you have your news of the week segment, and we've been kind of morbid today.
Well, Ric Flair survived.
I'm so happy Ric Flair survived, but we were talking about eulogizing the Sharks, near-death experiences, and then you pull out your news of the day.
Right, because I do the news every weekday, 4 o'clock, ABC 7, San Francisco. Dateline Washington State. Washington is the first state to allow composting of human bodies. You heard me right.
Why?
The state has approved composting as an alternative to burying or cremating human remains. They call it natural organic reduction, which is a nice way, and environmentally friendly, by the way.
Yeah.
If there's a lot of cemeteries that are almost full. I mean, there's more room at the inn. There's no vacancies.
So let me get this straight. I want to plant a vegetable garden in my backyard. Do I have to go acquire dead bodies to do so?
No, you can do your own. But
I have to provide my own body.
Well, if you have a neighbor that you're not that crazy about.
How is this a big enough thing that it's like...
Well, it says right here, composting could be a good option in cities where cemetery land is scarce. It's the urban equivalent to natural burial. And there was one official who said, the image that people have that oppose this is that you're going to toss Uncle Henry out in the backyard and cover him over with food scraps. What
are you doing
well,
otherwise?
No, I mean, you can.
I don't get it.
Naturally reduce your loved ones and then plant them. But it got me thinking that, because of this guy's line where he said, "Put Uncle Henry out in the backyard." You can plant. Think about what an interesting promotion at Oracle Park where they have a veggie garden. Where they have, if you are the ultimate Giants fan,
you could be
the
veggie garden.
You could be the veggie garden. I mean, but the thing is, like, do you want when Uncle Ned Stark, when he's compostable and he's out there at Oracle Park in the veggie garden, and then they grab like a tomato from that garden. Do you want? It kind of tastes like Uncle Ned.
Is there seedless tomatoes and toothless tomatoes? Gather around, kids. Yeah, I don't know if I want anything to do with eating compost or plants grown out of compost of dead folks. I don't want to provide the dead folks for the compost. I don't want to pick up the dead folks to put in the compost. I don't know if you can go to Home Depot and just get a bag of dead?
A bag of
how
dead?
How does this work?
Bag of Ned.
Bag of Ned. Here's your old bag of Ned. And if you want to be a Giants fan for life,
yes!
There it is.
I mean, what other way it could be more significant of your love for the team than saying, I want to be composted and out in
I don't think the Giants want you just hauling, wheelbarrows full of people over there to be buried.
I want to be buried in dead center.
Oh.
Where Pablo hits him.
I don't want anything to do with all this.
All right. That's this is not a made up. This is happening in the state of Washington.
I don't know how it became an issue big enough that they had to actually make a ruling on this.
My news story of the week.
This is just crazy.
Tremendous.
You know what else got buried, Larry?
You know
what else got buried?
Afraid to ask.
The Game of Thrones finale.
Wait. What happened to the question of the week?
Let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
The question.
Yeah, out of order.
Buried. I think there was no way they could possibly satisfy everybody.
Oh, we are talking Thrones?
Yes,
we're not going to talk about
Thrones.
super producer Leonard's question?
We're going to get to that last.
Okay, that's Leonard's last.
Leonard's
L for last. All right, so everybody has an opinion on this, including the great Aaron Rodgers.
You come down to the end and Tyrion says the person with the best story is Bran, who, by the way, 3 episodes ago said he wasn't Bran Stark anymore. No, Jon had a better story. Dany had a better story. Arya had a better story. Sansa had a better story. Tyrion had a better story. Varys had a better story. Bronn, a lot better story. Jaime, better story. Cersei, probably better stories. Any Baratheon, better story.
He's absolutely right. There were so many better options than the way they chose to go out. And I was not emotional about it, but I thought the entirety of season 8 left a lot to be desired. And in another soundbite, Aaron Rodgers said, the producers were also writing Star Wars at the same time because they've been signed to do the next Star Wars movie. So he's like, I think they were a little distracted.
And rushed. It seemed that they were very rushed. They didn't want to do more than 6 episodes. I think they shut it down too quickly. We probably missed a lot of important plot and things that could have developed or maybe explained some of the things that happened more. After 8 seasons, I didn't really mind the finale very much of a lot of other people complained. I was kind of just of the opinion that I wanted to just be along for the ride. So sitting back and watching it, I was okay with it. I thought it was all right how it ended. I mean, Bran is a decent selection for the Iron Throne's gone, but he's a decent selection to lead as king. And
well, let me ask you about this.
I was okay with all of it.
Because Bran, he could see the past, he had all the memories, but he could see into the future as well.
In little flashes.
So Bran was really playing the long game. He knew all along he was going to be the king then. Or is that what we're saying?
I mean, that's the thing is, like, at the end when he's saying goodbye to Jon, he tells him, you were exactly where you needed to be. And
to make me the king.
Exactly. He didn't say that. But then in the King's Moot they had when Tyrion swayed them to make Bran the leader.
Which was an absurd scene, actually.
basically said, "Why do you think I came all this way?" Like he knew all along.
Because I'm going to be the man.
So was he playing everybody this whole time, or did he really know what was truly best for the kingdom and acted on that?
I don't know. He had so few lines and was omitted from one entire season. It's hard to know what his thought process was. But I have an alternative ending that was suggested. But before I get to that, let me just say this, and I think we could all agree on this. Peter Dinklage was amazing. I mean, from start to finish, but also just in the final episode. I mean, I thought his performance was just so powerful, especially when he's digging out through the rubble, trying to find his brother and
trying
sisters.
to find the compost for the garden.
You know what? After the dragon got finished with King's Landing, there was plenty of compostable material right there.
They could use that.
Charbroiled, actually. He was great, and I thought there was a moment of cinematic brilliance for those that saw the final episode when you see the Queen of Dragons walking out to address the troops, and the wings come out from behind her. It looks like she has dragon wings, and it's Drogon, the gigantic dragon, who then flies above her. And like whoever conceived of that shot and creating that, because obviously there are no dragons, you got to CGI that, but just the notion that we could do that, we can have her walk, and the dragon. I thought that was fantastic.
So for all the misgivings, we still were given things like that.
Yes.
In the cinematic brilliance. So, I mean, you got to take the good with the bad and kind of just enjoy the run. It probably was a bit rushed, but for what it was nice to be along for the ride. And I'll probably start the show all over from scratch and watch it again, because I can't even imagine flashing back to season 1 now after seeing all of this.
Yeah, well, think about this, and this would be the alternate ending. And the notion that Tyrion, who was moments away from being decapitated, could talk the council into not only not killing him, but making Bran the Broken as the... First of all, if I was Bran, I would have said, if you call me Bran the Broken one more time, I'm going to tell him to chop your head off right now. I'm not going to go through the rest of my life as Bran the Broken. All right, that's bad branding. Okay, if you're the king, that is poor branding for Bran. All right? I'm not going to be Bran the Broken. Whatever. But beyond that, think about if you went along with this premise that he was going to be the king. Mm-hmm. Remember when the Night King he physically touched him and marked him. They could have reinforced that again a couple of episodes earlier when there was the confrontation when Arya stabbed the Night King and ultimately
vanquished the army of the dead.
Yeah, they all perished. But think about this ending, because if Bran was part Night King and part Bran, think about how the ending would have been if they had wheeled the king out and he just blinked and one eye was brown and one eye was blue for the Night King, and then you go, oh my God, wait a second, did they just crown the Night King as the King of Kings? It would have just blown everybody's mind if you're going to go.
That's your last shot.
That's your last shot of just the blink.
And then everyone's just like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah. I mean, that would have freaked people out.
Absolutely.
And so that is courtesy of our HR director, Bradley Hoffman, who had way too much. He's got a whole list of scene changes, and I just got to the end because otherwise we would be doing an hour-long podcast of scenes that he would like to reshoot.
He wrote a George R.R. Martin-esque email to Larry.
Yes,
and Larry paraphrased it. But let's talk about that real quick, too. They weren't working with the source material.
Well, right.
George R.R. Martin stopped writing the show, and they had a falling out. So, I mean, he even helped write some episodes. So, to blame them for everything in this final season, it's kind of hard because George R.R. Martin stopped providing the source material. So it's not all their fault.
George should have
There's a share of blame to go around.
Should have just called Bradley Hoffman, and Bradley was sick. Yes, like a zillion storylines that he wanted to bang out about who kills who and which scene should take. I mean,
here's my manifesto.
Yes, George could have benefited from Bradley's.
Bradley would be George H.R. Martin.
Very good. Yes, human resources. I like that.
All right.
What do you got? You got a question?
We got a Leonard question here. Leonard, this is like 4 weeks in a row. Leonard hasn't been here.
Super producer Leonard, he may be less than super producer. We may just have to bust him down to regular producer, because when you don't show up week after week, And
Here's
we had
the
not
question.
seen the question.
I'm holding it up for YouTube. He emailed it to me. I printed it. If you could make your all-star basketball team with players from other sports, who would you choose?
Oh,
That's a tough one. So we need to pick 5?
well, that's interesting.
5 athletes from other sports?
I immediately think of NFL players.
Okay.
Looking at, but I don't know what their basketball skills are. Like you remember Terrell Owens, T.O.
Yeah.
To this day would tell you that he is a great basketball player.
All right, so T.O. makes the team.
Well, if he's just on his word alone.
What is he, power forward? Where are we
No,
putting him?
he has to play.
He's
like,
tall.
no, but he's like 6'3".
he's swole.
He is swole, but he'd play shooting guard or something
Let's
like that.
combine efforts here. All right, I'll go with the center. You ready?
Yeah.
The center of my other sport all-star basketball team is WWE's The Big Show.
Oh my goodness.
You're never getting around that guy. And he actually did play basketball.
Well, a lot of those guys played basketball.
Yeah, he was a former basketball player. So at center, I'm putting the Big Show in there. He's going to be like a Shaq-esque type monster that would dominate the low post.
All right, Big Show is
Big
playing.
Show is your center. Terrell Owens, we just putting him on the team now?
T.O., I'm thinking he would want to be the shooting guard.
Okay. He can also bowl pretty well.
He's actually in amazing shape. He goes to several games, Warriors games at Oracle, and he still looks like he could play. I got to think about what popped into my mind immediately as you asked the question was we ran some footage today of Antonio Brown streaking down the field for the Raiders in OTAs.
He could look like Curry running around the court.
I mean,
left, right,
a
all
bolt
over the
of
place.
lightning. I mean, that's I don't know. Does Usain Bolt have any basketball skills? That would be another guy. If you want to push the pace and go like end to end, Usain Bolt would be a guy.
Put Brown on the basketball team and then put Bolt on the Raiders.
Ooh,
there
that
you
would
go.
be fun too.
That'd be fun to watch.
All right, so are we putting Antonio Brown?
Are we just going to pick a bunch of wide receivers?
Well, the Big Show's not a wide receiver.
Big Show.
No,
Big
we got to
good.
get some. Was it only football, or we could pick
any
sport?
Any sport. What about Antonio Gates? Wasn't he a good basketball
Well, he was.
player?
Yeah, he was
one of the greatest tight ends of all time.
Antonio Gates would be there. What about?
I'd put him in there.
What about a soccer player? Like Messi's too small because he's only like 5'8" or 5'9", something like that. How about Ronaldo? He could probably shoot with his feet.
Now that would add is that even legal? I mean, you can't kick the ball when people are trying to pass
that's
it. But
defensively
can you shoot it
off
with your foot?
I don't think it's ever been tried.
Wow.
Let's say Ronaldo's on the team.
Okay. So we got the Big Show, Ronaldo, T.O., Antonio Brown.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
We got 2 Antonios because we put Antonio Gates on there.
Okay.
All right. You're the coach.
That's our team.
Give them all positions.
Well, Antonio Gates is going to play. He's a little undersized to play power forward, but with this team that we have, I think we may be running a 3-guard offense with Antonio Brown, Ronaldo, and T.O.
Yeah.
T.O.
That'll be our small lineup.
Is T.O. going to give up the ball? Is
T.O.
anybody else going to get up a shot?
T.O.
is good. A lot of ISO T.O. on the side. And Big Show is your center. Antonio Gates is your forward. So we're going to run a 3-guard offense.
I like
That's an interesting question. I wish we had more time to really look at rosters and ponder that. But
that's the whole beauty of it, though. Leonard springs these on us, and we just have to go off the cuff.
There's probably some other guys, like Michael Phelps, have any basketball in him? I mean, talk about a wingspan.
Yeah, just think of all the genetic freaks you could think of and throw them out there.
I mean, think of Randy Johnson at 6'10" in his prime when he was pitching.
Yeah.
I mean, who's the biggest pitcher today, height-wise? I have to think about that.
Yeah.
But
there's that Chris Young guy that was super tall.
Yeah, he was
Padres.
like 6'10". Yeah. 6'10", something like that. All right, I think that
it's a good place to go out on.
That covers it.
All right. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to subscribe. We're pretty much everywhere podcasts are available. iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and you can watch us on YouTube. If you're listening, hit the 5-star thing. That helps us. Or leave a comment. You can tell me I'm an idiot. That still counts as a comment. If you're an Angry Sharks fan, fire away. I didn't jinx you, though. That wasn't my fault. Sharks fans.
It just happened.
It just happened.
Injuries happen.
I was rooting for you.
And
really
again,
hard.
I ask, where are we with legal on the giveaways of Durant jersey and a Steph Curry
have
jersey?
the jerseys.
We're coming up to the finals.
We have the paperwork.
And we're not giving the stuff
I just
away.
have to fill it out.
Are you hoarding all of these wonderful prizes?
I'm
that
not a
our
lawyer,
listeners-
nor do I pretend to be one on this podcast, but I have all the legal paperwork. I just have to fill it out. So that's how close we are
I believe,
to giving away jerseys.
I believe Casey the Broken has broken into the stash of giveaway items, and that's why we ain't giving them away.
They're all in my trunk. And you can find us anywhere online as well. abc7news.com/withauthority. And please don't forget to subscribe. That's the most important thing.
Don't be calling me Beal the Broken.
Beal the Broken. That works
if
better.
I mess up a show, Beal the Broken.
First of his name.
Yeah. All right. Are we done?
We're done.
All right. Please subscribe because we hope you'll join us in the future. And with that, we say aloha.
Beal the Broken.